Other news this morning, 2023 on pace to be the deadliest year on record in Kansas City.
Police in Kansas City are now investigating the city's 129th homicide of the year.
KCPD homicide analysis shows this is the 131st homicide.
We spend a lot of time counting the number of homicides in our city and state. But advocates in the Black community say the victims have long been overlooked, that Black women are being killed at disproportionate rates.
When you look at the numbers, it's a crisis. We clearly have a crisis.
As if their word isn't enough, data that I found shows it. If you're a Black woman or girl, Missouri is the most dangerous state in the country, trailing only Washington, D.C. And that's according to the latest CDC homicide rate data from 2021. And in 2019, Missouri was at the top of the list. We felt we couldn't tell this story without hearing from the members of our community who live with this reality. I listened to these women who deal with the crisis of Black femicide every day in different ways. You'll hear how they're urging the community to do better while talking solutions.
We see it play out over and over in the Kansas City metro. Violence erupting in the streets and in people's homes, tearing families apart and leaving behind devastation.
My life will never be the same. It'll never be the same.
That devastation left Crystal Graves with only pictures and memories.
My 5-pound baby.
They're all she has now to feel close to her daughter.
Oriana, Raja, Nichelle, Ashanti Star.
The youngest of 8 children, with a name as unique as she was.
She had to come out with a bang. And Oriana, means golden one. She lived up to it. She loved that name.
Oriana lived and loved big in her 22 years on this earth, but her light was snuffed out in December 2020.
I didn't see it coming. I didn't. I did not see him getting to the point to where he would kill her.
Oriana hadn't been with her boyfriend, Brandon McDaniel, for even a year, but she was ready to move on with her life.
She was getting herself together as far as getting a new place, ready to move. And he wasn't going to be a part of that.
On December 16th, he was at Oriana's Independence apartment. He shot her in the back of the head from feet away and left her there, where she wouldn't be found for a day.
When the police knocked on my door that Thursday night, changed my life forever. And then knowing that she passed on the 16th, I seen her on the 16th.
Last November, a judge sentenced McDaniel to 30 years in prison for her murder and armed criminal action.
As a mother, you see the shoulda, coulda, wouldas.
Crystal says looking back, she saw his controlling behavior escalate in the month before Oriana's death.
Every time I would go to her apartment, he would always have to come. And then she started telling me, oh, he make me sick. He always want to follow me.
Oriana is much more than a statistic, but she is one of the many faces who represent the stark reality of fatal domestic violence in Missouri. Domestic violence murders have increased since 2017, according to data the 41I team obtained from the Missouri State Highway Patrol. After analyzing the data, we found that male victims are more likely to be killed by their own parents or other family members, while females are more likely to be killed by a partner or an ex. And the majority of women killed by a partner or ex are shot with a gun.
Since my baby died, since she was murdered, there's been so many women getting killed. And this murder, period, I'm just tired.
She was a beautiful, beautiful soul. We love you, Mayana. And I just pray that my baby rests in peace and we get justice for her.
Mayana Henderson was 21 years old when she was ambushed, shot, and killed in a gas station parking lot on Independence Avenue last summer. According to court records, her loved ones said the suspect, D'Angelo Fisher, barely knew her but was stalking her and called her nonstop. Mayana's mother, Dawn Kopecki, like Crystal Graves, can't wrap her mind around why shooting and killing her daughter was ever an option.
Why? Why did you do this to her? What did she do to you that was so bad?
Fisher's in jail awaiting his murder trial, set to begin in early 2024. The domestic violence stats, combined with the CDC data we gathered, paint a disturbing picture for Black women in Missouri. The data shows the Midwest and states bordering the Midwest are the most dangerous areas for Black women. According to the CDC, a Black woman is 5 times more likely to be killed in Missouri than in New York. Missouri's homicide rate for Black women is 19.8 per 100,000 people, the second highest in the country. In comparison, the homicide rate for white women in Missouri is 2.6. Minnesota was the first state to launch a task force on missing and murdered black women in 2021. Following the task force's recommendations, Minnesota passed a law establishing a special office for missing and murdered black women. The office will dedicate resources to reopening suspicious death cases, investigating active cases, and providing support for families.
I'd like to see our elected officials come together.
Michelle L. Watley, founder of nonprofit Shirley's Kitchen Cabinet, says Missouri needs to do the same.
What is going on in our city that black women, black girls, and trans people are being killed at disproportionate rates?
Shirley's Kitchen Cabinet is a nonprofit group that works to amplify the voices of black women through advocacy and education. We shared our data findings with Watley.
This data more than justifies the prioritization and the allocation of city funds and taxpayer funds to deal with what is essentially a crisis.
5th District Councilwoman and Mayor Pro Tem Raina Park Shaw says it's her job to do that.
Yes, it is time for us to talk about the black women and girls who are losing their lives.
We also showed Park Shaw our findings, and while she was not surprised, she was still alarmed.
It says a lot. It says quite a bit about the disparity that we have in Kansas City. Or in our state.
Park Shaw reminds us that she and the City Council do not control the Kansas City Police Department. Jefferson City does. However, she can work within the system she has. Park Shaw recently introduced and helped pass 2 ordinances that target violence. One will allocate $30 million over 5 years to youth violence prevention groups. The other establishes a city task force to prioritize city services in high crime areas.
In order for us to get to improvement in our crime and homicides, we're not going to be able to arrest our way out of it. We need to, first of all, make sure we invest in addressing the root causes.
There are currently no efforts for a task force on missing and murdered black women in Kansas City, but
I would definitely be interested in that.
A targeted but compassionate approach would mean the world to the many grieving parents like Crystal Graves, who promises her daughter, Oriana, that justice will come.
I'm going to make sure that her death wasn't in vain. Make sure somebody remembers Oriana. If I can't help the world, but if I could just get one person, if I could just help one person, then I could say, job well done. We did it, Ori.
Risk factors for the high homicide rates we see for black women carry over into why we see more black women and girls missing in the city and state as well. That'll be in an upcoming story you'll see here on KSHB 41 News. For the I-Team, I'm Sarah Blake.